Hey everybody, this is Nic Romolini and welcome to episode 3 of The Blank Page, a podcast about creativity, neuroses, and the intersection of the two. Today's conversation is with writer-director Cat Rhinehart. She's known for the 2018 romantic comedy Brand New Old Love and the documentary What's Eating Ralphie May, which is currently making its way through the festival circuit. I was lucky enough to see the LA premiere of the documentary and I was really moved by it. It's really harrowing story of addiction and mental health issues, and it's just a really emotional documentary. I really enjoyed hearing Kat's perspective on all the stuff that I like to talk about, given that she has made 2 indie films at this point. I found her point of view really valuable. We talk a lot about first films and the lessons learned. Again, irrational confidence came up. We talked about the book, The Artist's Way, quite a bit. She grew up Southern Baptist, so that was a pretty big topic of conversation as well. I certainly had what I thought were some controversial COVID takes, and I spent the rest of the day feeling under the weather, probably because I barely slept the night before, but I convinced myself that it was COVID and that God was punishing me for my hot COVID takes, which may be considered controversial. Anyway, that was a fucking joy. And I'm fine now. It was just allergies and the fact that I slept for like 4 hours the night prior. So enjoy my conversation with Cat Rhinehart. And thank you so much for listening.
Hello.
Cat.
Hey, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not much. I'm in Atlanta still. I'm going to go back to LA tomorrow. My doc was in a drive-in movie screening. So that was very COVID-rific and different, but fun. And yeah, and I'm just enjoying a lazy Sunday. How are you?
I'm good. I'm covered in bug spray because I'm in my garage and I don't want to get eaten alive by mosquitoes. Given that that's our new Los Angeles reality. Did you live in LA when there weren't mosquitoes? Do you remember that time?
I do. I'm still a little confused by the mosquito thing. I feel like it just happened recently. It was very kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah. That was one of like the dreams of LA, the promises of LA were no mosquitoes 8 years ago when I moved here. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, you started seeing them. And anyway, it's a fucking problem. But you're from Atlanta, right? So there's a lot of mosquitoes there too, huh?
Yeah, Atlanta has a lot of mosquitoes. You know, that's so interesting. I guess I didn't. So I just moved. I've been living in a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment with no deck, no yard, nothing for the past 4 years. And then my husband and I, we just moved in July to where we're still renting, but we moved in July to like a 2-bed, 2-bath house with a backyard. And so we've been like spending a lot of time outside for the first time. And that's the first time I've ever noticed mosquitoes. And I remember thinking, this is weird. I didn't realize there were mosquitoes in LA, but I didn't know that it was like a new thing. I just was like, I guess I just never noticed this because I didn't have a backyard before.
It's new and it's bullshit.
Is it just another apocalyptic thing is it just more climate change?
I just think that once mosquitoes are there, like once they arrive in a place, you just can't get them out. I mean, it could be climate change related. I don't really know. So you're from Atlanta.
Yeah.
What's it like for you to be back there? I don't know very much about Atlanta, to be honest, but what's it like for you to be back like in your hometown with a project that you're, showing?
It's really cool. I was so excited when we got into the Atlanta Film Festival. We premiered last October at the Nashville Film Festival, and that was great. But the Atlanta Film Festival, it seemed like it was a bigger fest, and I've been writing a pilot that's like a comedy that's based in Atlanta, and I have this dream of getting to film it here one day. So I was like, I'm going to meet all these Georgia based filmmakers and go to all these events, and it was going to be great. And that was supposed to happen in the spring, and then because of COVID they pushed it, and then they were like, actually we're going to do virtual and drive-in. And then the day of my drive-in, it rained all day. So I went with some friends and my mom, and it was cool, but I don't know. It didn't seem like there were a lot of people there. And I mean, the AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is like the big newspaper in Georgia, or at least in Atlanta, they recommended my film as one of the 5 films to check out at the festival.
Oh, awesome.
And that, like, really cool to see, like, my name in the AJC, because I grew up reading that newspaper. So that was like a really cool, validating experience. But I think it would have been a better experience if not for COVID. I guess that's true of everything.
Yeah, right.
That's true of everything. But it was still really cool, and I'm glad I still was even able to come. I probably wouldn't have come if I wasn't from here. And my mom, it was really an excuse to see my mom. I mean, I wore an N95 mask and a face shield on the flight, and then I went from the airport to a place that does rapid COVID test.
Oh, wow.
So I got like a rapid COVID test, and then went and saw her. So just, be cautious and not put her in danger. Of course, there's always a risk of that, but it's been really good to be here.
I love that is a part of every conversation that we need to have. Like, hey, I took every single precaution. I did all the things. I was in a hazmat suit from the time I left my front door till the time I arrived here. I burned all my clothes right outside the airport. Like, it's this crazy, I mean,
That's true.
But I'm sure your mother appreciates it, and I'm sure it felt really good to, make sure you were taking all the precautions.
Yeah. Oh, well, she was like, she's a conservative and she watches Fox News. So she just kind of rolled around all of it. So she was like, you have to get a test. And I'm like, no, Mom, I do. Like, you're in your 70s. This is a thing.
Right. Like, you don't know. Like, you actually don't know that this will kill you because of what they're shoving down your throat. But I'm here to protect you, Mom.
Yeah. But there is this like scary level of like, I'm like, oh gosh, I do have to like say that before. And even like I would be places and Atlanta's pretty open. I've gone,
right,
to restaurants and stuff, and mostly sat outside. But then people, and I've always been like, oh, I'm visiting from California. I'm always like afraid to say that, and then I'll be like, but I got a COVID test as soon as I got off the flight.
Oh, right, because they think that we're just like pulsing with COVID, right? They think we're all just like COVID zombies. Well, like the rest of the country thinks that, right?
I would have assumed, but no one's really cared. I've just said it like to make myself feel better, and I've just said it. I just assumed that like telling someone that you just flew in, I would think would be a cause for alarm. So, but no one seemed to. I just say it,
right?
I just feel this need to, and then like we pose for a picture, you take off your mask to pose for a picture, and then I'm like, maybe we should get. I'm going to hold my mask in the picture just in case, so people know that I was wearing it. There's all like before I post this on the gram.
So you're of course just concerned about blowback from fellow Angelinos, fellow very liberal Angelinos who will be like, you're killing everybody's grandmother by walking through the park 40 feet away from other people without a mask on. I listened to NPR this morning. Didn't you hear that thing about that one kid in that one place that died? Once? Yeah, right. From something unrelated?
Yeah.
But there was like a little touch of COVID in there.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is I'm like, I keep on saying, I'm like, I don't want to sound like a Republican.
I know.
Very liberal and very progressive and very proud of that. But at the same time, I'm also like, I check the news every day and like try to track the numbers, and where my mom's house, the county, it's Cobb County, and like their cases, they're supposedly dropping. And in California too, like, I don't know, we have 40 million people, and I think the COVID death count is not that high. I mean, it's tragic, but considering how many people there are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to come across as like, I'm certainly not anti-mask, and I'm certainly like, vulnerable people need to be protected. Like, we need to, slow the spread of this thing. Absolutely. Like,
right. Absolutely. But then it's also like, I don't think we have no leadership and no plan. No. So because of those things, it's like, well, what are we waiting for? I haven't met a single person who said they were willing to get the vaccine. Right. So we're basically just doing a super slow, financially, economy devastating herd immunity.
Totally. Which, like, Which, like, Sweden has already achieved simply by protecting their most. But anyway, we should probably. I'm very curious about, because you mentioned your mother. You mentioned she's conservative, which I did not know, but I did know that you grew up Southern Baptist, and I'm extremely curious about that. I have no idea about what sort of Southern Baptism is, except that my assumption that it's just completely oppressive for everyone that's not white and male. And this is not a judgment. I don't know if you're still practicing Southern Baptist. I don't know.
Well, I say my siblings will claim that we were raised Southern Baptist, but my mother will be quick to say you weren't raised Southern Baptist, you were raised Baptist in the South. And she thinks there's a difference. I don't. But it was just very. I went to a tiny, tiny private Christian elementary school. There was 13 kids in my class.
Okay.
In my school, and it was all just, there was just a big focus on like Jesus coming back soon. So there wasn't much, like, I remember getting to high school and I was like, I don't know how to act, behave, or like what any of this is, because there's no focus on high school. It's all on, well, besides like, don't have sex till you're married. It's like, don't have sex till marriage. Yes, like men are run the show. It was very Pence, like whatever you think Mike Pence and his wife believe, like it was that.
Right. Are they like rapture Christians? Like Jesus is coming back like ASAP? Was it like that's impending, like that's bearing down on us?
That was my takeaway.
Got it.
So yes, it was impending, and Jesus is coming back soon. And I mean, I just remember my mother like casually over breakfast saying like, you kids are going to witness the return of Jesus Christ in your lifetime. Like, you're so lucky.
Wow.
And I hadn't been kissed by a boy yet at the time. And that I was like, oh my God, I have to get, so I would like pray at night, every night, that Jesus would like, or God, or, whatever, would like,
whomever who's in charge,
the great, would like pause, like stop down on Armageddon, delay, get a boyfriend.
I love it.
So, and get my braces off. And
just before Jesus comes back, just let me get these braces off, because I've heard horror stories about kissing with braces on.
Yeah,
I lived one of those horror stories actually, but
did you get stuck?
No, not stuck. It was just like there was definitely like cutting. It was like kind of uncomfortable, a little slight blood, maybe like a trickle.
Oh my God! Really? That's really scary.
I think both of us had braces. It was actually a really traumatic first kiss experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh no. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm here now. I've recovered.
Okay.
I'm okay, but it was certainly traumatic. Anyway. So you went to public high school?
No, it was still a private school, but it wasn't Christian. I went to like a tiny, tiny private Christian school with like 13 kids until I graduated from 7th grade. For some reason, 7th grade was the final year at that school. And then I went to actually it was like largely Jewish high school. And so that was cool. But then I just missed all the bar mitzvahs. They were like, you should have been here last year. We had the greatest parties. But yeah, it was just, and so of course the first thing I did was like rebel as much as possible.
Right.
I was like, oh, I'll smoke weed. That'll make me cool.
Did it work?
I feel like I don't know if it made me that cool. In like one small circle, I was cool. But like the art, I was like a photography. I was like an art nerd. I fit in there, I wasn't the theater nerd. I think those were the worst ones.
Right.
But I think objectively from like from like the cool kids, I think the theater ones were like on the lowest, and then like the art nerds were like one tier above that, but still very low.
Right.
On the cool factor.
Were you always interested in the arts? Like, did you grow up in a creative, artistic family, or what drew you to the arts?
I think, yes, I think I was always drawn to it. I'm the middle of 5 children, and I think just to keep myself entertained, I would just watch I would make up stories, and like my dad would go on business trips and come back with like these little, like he would take like the little notepad from the hotels, and I would use them, like I would doodle them and like do little like stories and illustrations and stuff. And my parents were like really good about kind of leaning into whatever each child took to.
Oh, cool.
So they enrolled me in like art classes after school, and were really supportive of all of that, and like I didn't get good grades, but they were like, well, you're artsy. It's almost like they were like, you're a manic pixie dream girl in training. We're gonna lean into this somewhat.
So you never had a chance of being good at math, basically, because
yeah, but no interest in it.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's really impressive and awesome that they were able to like be supportive of 5 children's different interests. I mean, that's dizzying, I would imagine, as parents.
Yeah, I thought so. I appreciate it a lot now that I'm an adult, and I'm not a parent yet. But I just watching my 2 nephews, I'm like, just the thought of like having to take. I can't even imagine having to take one to one thing and another to another thing, all in the same time slot, like after school. And I don't know how my mom did it, but
well, that's what women are for. That's how you
submitting to.
Isn't that the dogma? So wait, are you still Baptist?
No.
Okay,
no.
I hope I wasn't disrespectful with my opening salvo into that conversation of like.
Well, you're good. Yeah, I don't know what I am, to be honest. I will say that I just this is very California of me to go from that to what I'm about to say, and it's like one step shy of crystals. But I just do the artist way. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day a little bit.
Yeah. Have you done the artist way?
I've not. It was in my Amazon saved for my cart for so long that it's no longer available from the seller that I was going to buy it from. I've heard so many great things from so many creatives that I respect on podcasts and things over the years that, tell me your experience, please.
So I bought it, I feel like when I first moved to LA and I was doing a lot of stand-up and writing and stuff, and everyone would talk about it, like as if you were Southern Baptist, the way people talked about Jesus in the South. Have you done the artist way? And I didn't. I thought it was just a book. I didn't realize it was like a weekly thing. It's a 12-week program. I did it in 5 months, but I really did in 5 months, in like 5 years, because I bought the book and then it sat on my floor literally gathering dust for years. I don't even know, at least 5 years. And then the pandemic happened, and I wasn't working, and I was like, I guess I'll give this a read. And at first it was like a little cheesy, and I was kind of rolling my eyes through it, but I was like, whatever, I'll do it. And by the end of it, by week 7, I was like on fire. It was awesome. And by the end of it, I like cried like tears of joy for like this a wonderful experience. It was very life-changing for me. And it was kind of annoying at first because it was like, oh, you're like healing. You're creative recovery.
Right.
She uses this term, creative recovery. And I was like, I don't like this term. I don't think I have anything to recover from. And then by the end of it, I was like, I'm recovered. Well, one thing that was really, really hit home for me was she goes into this idea of like a toxic God and like, the great creator. Like it is you could be Christian in it, like, and do it and it line up with your beliefs, or you can be any other religion or religious, and it's still like you can like kind of you can make it work for you.
Sure.
But because she talked a lot about like, do you have a toxic God? And I realized that I do. And I remember when I was growing up, I was like, we're always supposed to like pray that like God's will be done. And I was like, well, I want to be like a filmmaker and a writer and do these things. And there's no way that like God wants me to do those things. So I'm never going to pray that God's will be done in my life. Because I was afraid of what would happen, and I thought it was going to be something bad. That like I didn't want it. That was going to be like dragged, kicking and screaming into this God's will. And then this book was very much like God's will for you is to create. God's creative, and like
Right.
retrain your brain like around this toxic. And so it really like I can't remember everything, but it really helped me because I was like, I have this view of God as this like angry old white man who doesn't want the best for me. And
well,
now
that's how he's always. I mean, that's how he's always depicted, right? So, I mean, no matter what denomination you grow up in Christianity, like it's always an angry old white bearded man.
Right. And now and that comes from nothing. I remember reading somewhere like someone said, there's no white people in the Bible.
No.
And I was like, that's so true. There's no white people in the Bible. And you tell that to like the Mike Pence people and their heads will explode.
Yeah. Well, they'll just try and control your body in some other way.
Well, yeah.
Instantly.
I mean, Jesus was white. Jesus was the only white person in Jerusalem. I don't know if you knew that.
Totally. Yeah. They were all brown-skinned people except for Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. No, I mean, thy will be done is the end of the Our Father, right? I mean, that's like a part of the prayer. I mean, I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
So
that has its own hot mess of issues. I didn't have any. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I mean, no, I wasn't touched, in an inappropriate way.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
I don't think every single Catholic, sorry, that was me clapping a mosquito. I don't think every single Catholic was molested. And I think there's actually, I don't know, I still resonate with Catholicism in a lot of ways, but like that, I don't know, that shame, I think, of like, I'm not worthy. That it's more like I'm not worthy of the things that I want, and God certainly doesn't want those things for me.
God, right. See, I didn't have I'm not worthy, the Catholic shame thing. I've only heard about that. I didn't experience that. There was a lot of shame around like being a woman in my body. And it was like up to me to make sure that like if a male like lusts after you as a female, like that is 100% your responsibility and your fault.
Right.
And not, like it all falls on the women, and the women, like there's nothing about like how sex should ever be like enjoyable. It's always just like these boys that are trying to get that from the girls, but we women have to like be the good ones. And so there's a lot of shame around your body. That there was but there was no shame around like, oh, you don't deserve these things. It's very much like, I feel like the Christians, especially like Christians in the time of Trump, are very much like, we deserve all the things.
Totally.
We get all the,
and we're the only ones who deserve them.
And we're the only ones who deserve it. Absolutely.
It's fucking crazy.
But now I started referring to God as in the female. And that was like really fun and helpful. And now like so I started like praying to God again in the way like the artist way, like guided and suggested. And I picture God as this like warm, loving, like female, like motherly, encouraging, creative, like presence. And it's wonderful. And I don't know exactly what I believe. I don't know if I buy like the Big Bang Theory, but I also don't buy that the Earth is only 2,000 years old. So it's like, I don't know, like I'm kind of like pushed in these different directions based on how I was raised. But then I think science, of course, should take, it's like what key, I don't know. It's a mess, but the artist way was really wonderful.
No, it's great. I'm definitely interested in it. And the thing is about those like revered books that everybody's always talking about, it's like, even though I think it just seems like buzzy and just a thing for people to talk about, I've always found that every time I actually do one of those things, it really works. Like when I do it from zero to completion, as it sounds like the artist way really worked for you. And so maybe I'll finally do it.
Yeah. Well, I lived in New York for 10 years, and I've been rejected a lot, pretty much almost exclusively rejected in my like quote unquote career. And so I think I'm pretty like cynical. I don't know if I'll say I'm bitter. I try to stay pretty positive. I'm not bitter, but I'm definitely cynical. And like, so stuff like the artist way is very hard for me to swallow, especially in the beginning. I was like, this is just too fucking weird and cheesy. And like some of the assignments she has you do, it's like write a letter to your artist child, and there's stuff like that. And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? But I did it. And it was, I'm telling you, week 7, week 8, I was like, oh, it was like this awakening. It was like a cleanse.
Yeah, it sounds super cathartic, super therapeutic. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of anything that mines our histories and our pasts and like plumbs the depths of our souls to sort out, what's fucking us up and how we can, I mean, really, that's, I feel like it's a lifelong pursuit to iron out the things that are mangling our souls.
Yeah. And I think that we have to be like so much more careful now. I'm trying to be like really careful about like screen time, because that's so dangerous. Like speaking of souls, like time on your phone and time on like in front of screens, I think is like soul sucking.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of evidence that shows that. I don't think that's not even up for debate. It's just hard to look away. But so like, especially in this time of like where our brains are so fried and scattered and like so hard to like focus attention on anything anymore, like because of how quickly things come at us, I think it's like good to do these little exercises to like check back in.
Yeah, also getting out into nature. I mean, of course, with your mask on and your plastic shield on and your bee suit on. But no, I mean, just getting away from the digital infrastructure and reconnecting, with Mother Earth, which I feel like was the image that I had in my mind when you were describing the God that you pray to. It's like the interconnectedness, for me at least, of everything in the universe and Mother Nature and all those things, and the way that the mosquito that I just tried to kill is made up from the same cells as I am,
Right.
But tell me about believing in yourself. Tell me about self-doubt, and tell me about how you push through that stuff. I mean, how you're just coming off your film being in a festival, which I would imagine has to provide a little bit of a boost to your self-worth. How do you do with that stuff? Because I'll tell you, I fight through self-hatred and self-doubt and excruciating self-judgment every day.
Sure. My thing is that my like crushing self-doubt comes way later, when it's like too late in the game to stop. But I have this like insane confidence. I think you have to be confident to the point of like stupidity. But I think I'm like this genius writer, filmmaker, director, and just no one else knows it yet. And I'm like convinced. And so it was like, I really thought, I was like, I deserve to make this movie. Like the film that was in the film festival was a documentary I made. Before that, I shot the doc first, but then I didn't finish the edit. And then after I shot the doc, I got a little bit of funding to do a super low budget rom-com that I wrote and directed. And that was my first go to feature. And I was like, this is going to premiere at Sundance. The New York Times is going to write an article about how the rom-com is back. And Cat Rhinehart has single-handedly brought this back. And like, it was going to be this, here's what I'm going to wear on the red carpet at the Oscars. Well, I was like, I actually thought both. I was like, I'm going to have my rom-com, which is called Brandon Would Love, my documentary, which is called What's Eating Ralphie May. I was like, these are both going to premiere the same year at Sundance. And people are going to be like, wow, this like female director has 2 feature films, a narrative and a documentary. How cool is she? And like, I had all these big plans. And then I like made the movie Brandon Will Love, and then I was like, what the fuck? This movie sucks.
I've heard you say this movie sucks before, and I find it hilarious that this is your current takeaway.
I mean, I hate to say that out loud. My producer would be very mad at me. I remember another producer being like, never disparage your own film. And I'm sure that that's good advice. And I'm so sorry. I hope my producer never, I don't mean that. And 100% only things that I did wrong. Everyone else was wonderful. I had an amazing team. The filming, like every day on set was phenomenal. I loved it. Like, and the cast was amazing. Like I had Arturo Castro and Aya Cash, Josh Brenner, like Brian Doyle Murray. It's like, it was just a dream. It was amazing. It was so cool. And like, it was a fun, exciting set. And I was like, this is awesome. This is gonna be great. And then like, I got to edit, and then I was like, what is that? Like, it was mistakes I made. But,
sure. But I think all those things can be true at the same time. Like, I think it could be an amazing cast and an amazing crew and an amazing set experience. And I think there could be all this positivity. And then in retrospect, you can be like, damn, this isn't that good. Like, this was my first go at this thing, and it's not great. Like, I think that's a fine and fair assessment. And I understand you wouldn't want a producer to be like, we shit the bed, but.
Well, it's just like I can't even, like the third act to me, is, I think there's really cute parts. And I think the third act, I'm like embarrassed. I'm like, what, how did and I'm like, why didn't I wish I had like done more. And I made so many mistakes, but a big thing I've thought about a lot since I wrote a movie that I remember like when I wrote the script, I was like, I want this to be cool. I want to be like one of the guys. I want guys to think I'm funny and cool. And it's like girls suck. Like we're living like we're not fun. Like we're just behind. I don't know. I just had all these like.
Where do you think that comes from?
I'm sure that has to do with like being like I'm sure that's like deep seated like misogyny from my upbringing probably. But I just had this like desire. I remember like a friend of mine read the script and he said, I couldn't even tell it was written by a woman. And that was like a huge compliment to me. And I was like, oh my God, I was so flattered. I was like, this is ready to go shoot. In the film that I'm writing now, I'm like, it is so, I would think it would be obvious to anyone that it was like, that it's deeply, deeply personal. And like, it's certainly something that like the writer lived through.
Right.
And so it's like I want women to be like, yeah, like about certain part. Now I'm writing something for myself instead of like trying to be cool, like for other people.
Right.
And so that was like a really big mistake. And I don't think I could learn that another way, but at the same time I do. And I've said this, I just felt like I was the only first-time film. I feel like every other first-time filmmaker goes to Sundance and then like wins an Oscar, and like I just felt
everybody else except you. Every single other person who's made a first film has gone to Sundance and then won Oscars and then gotten like first look deals, and their career's been set. You're the only one. You're the only failure.
Yeah, I'm the only, and then they get a Marvel movie.
Right, exactly.
The only thing that like helped, one of the like the most healing things for me through after all of it was this Ira Glass quote, and I'm going to summarize it, but you can find it. That he was just like, for artists and creatives, we have this, the level of our taste. We have this like really good, we have good taste. And then we want to make things that match our level of taste. And then we get at first we're not good.
Right.
And we get confused because we're like, well, how come this thing I'm making isn't to the level of my taste?
Right.
And he said the only volume closes that gap.
Right.
And that's why I was able to like sleep at night after that. Cause I was like, it was so confusing to me that Brandon World Love wasn't what I thought. What Brandon World Love wasn't to the level of my taste. That was really confusing for me. And then I was like, okay, I just have to keep making bad stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, there's a few things there. Like every filmmaker that I revere, I've always heard basically say, get the bad ones out of your system. Write the bad movies, make the bad movies. The only way you're going to improve is by making bad shit, basically. But if you if you think that your first one is going to be your masterpiece and you work on that first one forever, that first one is still going to be shit in some way, or not the pinnacle of your achievement. So it's just getting the bad ones out of your system. It's getting the bad scripts out of your system. It's learning, it's craft. But also what you were saying, like, writing your truth is always going to resonate with other people because it's real and it's true and it's honest. If you're writing something that you find rewarding, it will not matter if it ever gets made, if it ever gets published, if it ever turns into, it won't matter, because the process of you creating that will be so therapeutic and so cathartic, and you will grow so much as a human being that process will have been worth it. And it sounds like that's kind of where you're at right now with this new project.
I think so. Like I would have done everything differently now with Brandon with Love, but like the only way you can know that you would do everything differently is to do everything that first way.
Right.
But then at the same time, like, I hear this on the Ira Glasscock, what you just said, but then I'm like, what? Okay, but like all the filmmakers I revere, they don't have bad, like, where are their shitty first movies?
They're just not out there.
Their first movies are good too.
Yeah, I guess. Who though? Who didn't fuck up like in film school, or who didn't, like, I don't know. I don't know.
But
give me an example.
But by the time they got a first feature, they were like, you know, I just feel like very few of them, and maybe I just don't know this, but very few of them have like a bad first movie that premiered at like a low tier festival. And then like, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but I feel like the big ones that everyone talks about, like, where's their bad movie?
I don't know. I would have to read some more bios. I'm really trying to get away. Sincerely, though, I'm really trying to get away from that. Like,
oh yeah,
because I just keep getting older and older. So if I'm like, okay, well, 5 years ago, I was like, okay, who made it after they were 31? Who made it as a such and such? Like, who's the most famous person that became famous after the age of 31? You know, and year by year by year, you just like tick off the people who you can no longer become until you're like, oh, right. All right. Well, maybe I'll just embrace like being me, and hopefully this leads to somewhere that I find satisfying and rewarding as a human being. Because that comparison shit is fucking crazy. I mean, it's crippling.
That is like, so that hits home for me. So I do that oh my God, I do that so much.
Like, I've Googled such random weird shit, you know, like, when did Liam Neeson get his first million? You know, like the weirdest fucking shit.
I've done that with everyone. And then it's like, how old were they when they first like got this and this? And then like every director, every filmmaker, I'm like, how old are they now? How old were they then? And like, they're always younger, and I'm always devastated. And you're right. There's no point to that. A good one is Stan Lee, by the way.
Oh, is he an example of someone who made it late?
Yeah, really late. So that's always a good one.
That's fantastic. That's good to know. I'll keep that one in my back pocket. Yeah. But I'm with you. Like, I do that. So, and it's so, and then it's just so bad. Everybody's journey's their own, man. Like, seriously, I think the sooner that people are able to embrace that everybody's journey is a singular and unique experience and stop comparing to other people. I mean, unless, you know, it's Kobe and Michael Jordan. Like, I only say that because rest in peace, Kobe. But to be able to imitate someone to that degree that you know, perfect what they did before you, it's like, I don't know, man. But even he was his own person. I don't know. Sorry to bring basketball into this. I know it's a super weird left turn.
No, it's fine. I was just watching The Last Dance.
Oh, so, cool. I still haven't seen it. I'm really excited for it, but I still haven't seen it.
Oh, it's obviously wonderful. It's really good.
Like 10 episodes, man. So fucking many episodes, so many hours. Any like big commitment. I mean, that's not even a big commitment. Like, a big commitment is like, you know, 8 seasons of Game of Thrones or whatever. But like, oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think this is just me getting into my complaints about having no time, but I do really want to check out The Last Dance. I mean, I grew up, Michael Jordan was an idol growing up. I was a huge basketball fan and still am.
And you definitely have to watch it at some point, but I mean, yeah, you have 2 young children. I've witnessed that from afar, and there's no time. It's crazy.
It's like this thing of like, I need to squeeze every last drop out of every moment that I can. So when the kids are finally asleep at 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's like, okay, well, I think I can be up till 11:30. I should probably spend some time with my wife connecting for, an hour, whatever that is, however long it is on any given night. And then it's like, okay, now I got to finish cleaning up the kitchen, and now my choice can be to journal for a little bit, to work on this podcast, to work on a screenplay, but like I need to literally squeeze the juice out of every moment that I have. I want to be writing, and now I've created a podcast as this diversion from screenwriting, because I'll make endless excuses for myself to not do the thing.
Well, you just have to get really rich.
Well, yeah.
Don't just not have a day job. That's the secret.
Who did that? Where's the model for how to do that?
Yeah. No, what's interesting? So I have like a writing coach. I meet with her once a week. That's been really helpful. It's just accountability is really good.
Right.
But we were talking, but I always share these deep fears about how, I'm too old. I'm getting too old. Everyone's like younger than me. Like all these 20 somethings are making features and getting to Sundance and then getting Marvel movies, and I'm being left behind. The same thing. Like you're saying, I'm Googling like all these people. Like, and then she was like, all those people who did, most of them, not all, but like 9.9 out of 10. Those people had like family money,
right?
And they didn't have to
family
have a day
connections,
job.
Dude, or like
family connections.
Yeah,
which is why a lot of them are white.
Yes,
why we have like the race issue in Hollywood, I think, because you have to be able to afford to do an internship or an entry level, like be some entry level like PA on like whatever and get $15 an hour. And I paid for my film school, and I went to Brooklyn College, and the whole time I was waitressing. But if I had like family money, I could have like not waitress and done like internships, and then like gone and like, if I didn't have like this crazy rent I had to pay for and someone else was paying my rent, I could have like gone and been like an assistant to the director or the writer, and then like worked my way up that way. And like a lot of people do that, and that's great, they're able to, but it's like hard to not be really jealous.
I know,
of like you got that opportunity. But so I think people that, if you have to work and have to like pay your bills and have a day job, I think the reality is it's going to take a little longer. And that's why like you do have to, like you're saying, not compare to other people's careers and just make your shit happen.
Do you want to direct a Marvel movie? I mean, is that a dream? I think that's the second time you've mentioned it, so I'm wondering, like, is that an aspiration, or is that just like,
I don't know if that's a personal. I mean, I think it'd be really fucking cool.
Would it?
But then I don't know. No, I mean, the kind of movies that I want to make are a little more nuanced than a Marvel movie.
Oh, really? I wouldn't have suspected. I thought you just wanted to make Alita Battle Angel 2.
No, I mean, it just seems like it's the crowning achievement today,
I guess.
So it's like, that's the bar, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, for whom?
Other people, I guess everyone else. So it's like, it comes back to like, why do I care what everyone else?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Thinks. So yeah, I don't know. No, I guess I don't. I think it would be cool, but I also think it would take up years.
I think that it's just a really good shiny object to hold up and be like, oh my fucking God, these other people get to do this thing that's like apex of this business, and I'm still like struggling to even crank out this next script or whatever it is, like, or to get this thing made. And it's like, fuck them. Who cares? Let them make the fucking Marvel movies. Who gives a fuck? You can write the thing that really resonates with you, and then when the right people find it and connect with it, you'll be able to, be in pursuit of what you really want earnestly.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to like this weird desire to like be so special or unique that it's like breaking some kind, like, I want to be the first woman to do something. It used like
Right.
something. Even when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be the first female to play on the Atlanta Braves.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
And then I got a little older and I was like, I'm going to be the first female director to win an Oscar. And then Catherine Bigelow. And then I'm like, I'm going to be the first. And I don't know why it matters. And the thing is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That I don't know why. And I think it's like, I want to be the woman who makes like the movie that is the first or the most this or the most that, or does this XYZ thing that matters for 5 seconds. And I don't know why. I think that's like my middle child syndrome, like
Right.
going haywire.
Right.
And, but it just, or being my competitiveness, but like, it's just the Artist Way was actually really good for that too, because we do have these things of like, we're too old, or like, there's not enough room at the table for another. I'm sure even like, it's like, I feel like as a white man, there's probably a lot of like fear of like, no one wants to, like we're pushed, we're trying to make room at the table for these other people. And then it's like,
there's still plenty of room for white men.
I know there is, but do you ever have that concern?
No, because I know that like there's still, sorry, I'll let you finish your question.
No, you're good. No, I think that's wonderful. But I had to have the Artist Way be like, and even this like meditation I was doing, like the illusion of competition. Like, there's always another story to be told, and like there's always more room. Like there's room for everyone.
That's the thing. I think that if I like authentically tell whatever story it is, like if I come from a place of authenticity and honesty, like it won't matter how society is shifting to include more voices. By all means, include more authentic, real voices from all avenues of life. And that will just continue to open up my lane for my authentic voice to be heard, while it squeezes out, the people who are writing a genre movie that combines these 3 movies all together, and it's this movie, and it's like, that's not fucking real or authentic.
Right.
I'm not
that's
shitting
wonderful.
on those people at all.
That's wonderful that you have that mentality. I think your head, because headspace is so important in such a cutthroat industry. So it sounds like you have a good headspace.
I mean,
like,
I'm saying it. I'm saying it to convince myself right now. I mean, I'm on like page 17 of a script that I'm writing. Every page is fucking agonizing. Like, if I could apply this to actually, if I could gather some of that confidence, that irrational confidence that, I've heard people speak of, that you alluded to earlier, like, and just sit down and like just start putting words on a page and like believing in myself as the words are coming out. Like, here's an example. And I wonder if this is resonant with you at all, but I have this like, so I'm always concerned about cliche and originality, and I'm always concerned that someone's going to be like, oh, that's so fucking obvious. Yeah, of course, blah, blah, blah. So I have like this pathological obsession with not being obvious. And then what I do is I'll make choices that are way too obscure and people don't understand at all. So like right now I'm writing a screenplay, and I was like, and this is just one little fucking example that got in my way for like an hour. I was like, okay, this guy's definitely got a Ramones poster on his wall. And then I was like, no, dude, that's obvious. Like, of course he has a fucking Ramones poster on his wall. Everybody has. I was like, well, okay, it needs to be like an MC5 poster or like a Susie and the Banshees poster. And like, but then you get into this thing of like, wait a second, is that my shit? And I'm worried about being too out, because now I'm creating a character who's also, I don't know if this, I'm a lunatic when it comes to this type of shit.
I think that's awesome that you have to like, you just have the Artist Way. For the thing, first,
did you just recommend the Artist Way again? Sorry, you broke up a little bit.
I did. Yeah. Sorry, because like, she talks about how like perfectionism gets in the way, because like you can't move on to the next page. And like,
right.
writing is rewriting, right? So like,
Right.
just write the fucking Ramones
Right.
poster, or why can't you just write like obscure punk band?
Right.
Poster,
In brackets.
Like,
yeah.
The most, no, not even in brackets, in the stage direction, like,
right.
Like, the wall is littered the coolest, most obscure punk band posters you've never heard of.
Right.
And and then the reader gets it completely, and then you can move on.
Right, but then you've gotten your point across and you can move on. You're not creating another hurdle that's going to cripple you for hours or days, or, you're going to find I mean, that'll happen, and then I'll find another diversion and won't get back to the screenplay for like 3 days or something, because like...
Yeah, but you just have to trust that, like, it's going to... this was like one of the most helpful lines for me, The Artist's Way, was, you're like, just trust your film already exists.
Right.
It's already completely written. You're just we're just writing it down, like it already exists.
Right.
So for me, that was really helpful, because when I get like bogged down, where I'm like, this isn't going where, this sucks, this scene, blah blah, I'm like, oh, this already exists, so I'm just gonna trust, and like I'm just gonna write whatever, and then I'll come back and revisit it later, and it's gonna be 15 different posters before you're done with the script.
Totally.
So just give it one for now and move on.
That's so good. Of like, it's already in existence. You're just sort of letting these words come through you that already exist. Yeah.
That's the Artist's Way, and it's so...
I think I'm going to read this fucking Artist Way, man.
You got to... I was like really having trouble writing in draft. So I'll do like an outline first.
Okay, yeah, I was curious about that. So that's your first thing, outline?
Yeah, outline. Well, I walk and I listen to music and I watch the whole thing in my head.
Right.
And but then the first thing I do is outline, like 3-page outline. And then I work on that a bit, and then I go into
3-page,
draft.
so that's just like, is it like beats or is it like prose?
It's like, my writing coach calls it a laundry list.
Okay.
Or like a grocery list, shopping list.
Okay.
This happens. I'm happy to like send you one of mine if you want to, if you're just curious.
I'll always take a new tool. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, sure. Just remind me. But yeah, I just do an outline, and I work on that for a while, and then I'll go into draft, and then of course everything changes in draft. But I was really, really struggling to write in draft. But I'll go back to the outline, and then I would make note. I have a text edit document, tons of notes. And then I would go back and forth between those things and just not really write in draft. And then the Artist's Way really helped me. Like, so then after that, like, oh, it already exists. There are no mistakes. There's this and this. Just all these really helpful lines that to some people are probably platitudes, but to me it's like really helpful and like deeply meaningful. I needed to hear. I was able to just like open up my script and just write a scene anywhere. I was like, doesn't matter. Like, I just like was like, oh, I'm on page 80. I know that I want this scene to happen. I just wrote the scene there. Right. And then later when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this scene doesn't go here. But now I know where it goes, but at least it's written. And it just, yeah, it's just, I think The Artist's Way really helped me not be like bogged down and overthink. But there is this like, there's a lot of like, you're not trying to think something up. You're right. You're getting something down.
You're the conduit for the thing that already exists. You're not like, oh, I got to figure this out right now. Yeah.
You're
it's
the
just
conduit
channeling through it.
Yeah. You're the conduit for the thing that already exists.
Right.
And that was like, and then I was like, oh, I can trust. Now I can trust. So you don't even need confidence.
Right.
You have to show up at the page.
Right. It's really about showing up to work. I mean, I feel like it always comes back to that. It's just like, open the laptop, open the document, sit there. Eventually the words are going to come, and they always fucking do. They
always do. I
think that for me, I mean, and this is like my therapy. I mean, this is why I'm in, it's like, this is the shit that I'm always working through. It's like, I have so much self-doubt, and I have such a fear of not being good enough. I mean, I think that I'm just so worried to share a thing that's not good enough or not up to somebody's standards. And like, there's just this like fear of failure that wouldn't even come to pass until 7 steps from now in the process that
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like somebody's not going to tell me I'm not good enough until it's in an exec's hands after I've fucking written it. Like, you got to fucking put the words on the page, but I think I can just jump ahead to those roadblocks and just keep building them. And like, I'm getting better. Like, I have been just like, all right, I'm just gonna everybody's asleep. This is it. I have an hour. I'm opening the laptop. And like, that will often mean that I open the text edit doc and just like journal about it for a little bit. And like, that's actually really been helping to like, okay, I know what kind of needs to happen in the scene, but I don't know the fucking specifics, because I want to write good dialogue and I want to like describe things in a way that's resonant. But sometimes I need to do that in prose first before I could just do it in final draft.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like I think everyone's process is different. Anything where you're moving forward is good, even if it's not in draft. I didn't write for years because I would be like, for a long time, I'd be like, I have to finish this draft tonight.
Right.
Like this insane goal. And I would open up the script and then I would be like, and I kind of thumb through it and I'd be like, that's too much. I can't finish it tonight. And then I would get overwhelmed and close it.
Right.
And now I'm like, I'm just going to write, I'm like, just going to work on this for an hour.
Right.
Even like 10 minutes, just something to kind of like, just like, show up at the page. And that's
forward momentum.
And that's like really made a big difference. And then this is another thing. I think oh my God, you just have to do it the artist way. But there was another thing that was really helpful in the artist way for me. And I think this would help you too.
Are you getting royalties?
I know. I think she has enough. I don't know.
No, I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate it. This is like a huge push to just fucking do the artist way. But anyway, go ahead.
But give it time. It really was like week 7 that started changing things. But so for me, like, I'm so hard on myself. Like, oh, I should have so much more done. I should have more films made. I should have a TV show and blah, blah, blah. And then like, I didn't work, like the pandemic, we're both editors by trade, and the pandemic hit. I would sit home on March 20th with no work inside. And I was like, well, this is a great opportunity for me to finish this script.
Right.
And then, May, June, July, August, September, like months go by. And I'm like, oh, I haven't finished the script. And so I'm so mad at myself for like wasting this time that I had to write where I didn't have a day job. And like, how could I have like not finished this script? Like, how come I worked on it, but I didn't finish it?
Right.
And I was just really, really mad at myself for that. And the artist way said this line that was, that said if you focus on the product, your artist's life will seem barren.
Right.
If you focus on the process, it's an adventure.
Right.
So like, just write every day a little bit.
Yeah.
And don't worry about the product.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful. So, and that really helped me write, because I was so mad at myself that I wasn't completing this product, that it was like preventing me from completing the product. And now I'm like, well, I just work on it a little every day. I'm closer every day to actually getting there.
Yeah, you have to fall in love with the process, I think. I mean, because if you're not,
Absolutely.
It's such a toil. Any creative pursuit that will ultimately result in hopeful monetary gain is such a toil, and it's such hard work. I mean, art is hard, dude. And like, you need to love doing it. If you're just doing it for the ends, it's hollow. It's empty. And like, my thing is always preaching process over product, even as I produce nothing. But like, but I do produce things. I mean, I have songs that I wrote at the beginning of the pandemic that are on SoundCloud, and now I'm doing this podcast, and I have pages that I'm writing, and like, I am actually pushing forward. Maybe I should give myself a little fucking more credit instead of just shitting all over myself constantly. But like, it is about the process. And like, I've actually had that hang up with collaborators where I'm like, dude, I am not worried about putting this out into the world. I just need to finish this and put it out into the world. And then whatever comes next, be damned. Like, sure, we'll change it or we'll move on to the next thing. Like, whatever. Like, I've always just wanted to like turn and burn and move through projects. And now I find myself sometimes, getting in my own way of even writing another page because I'm worried about what the product's going to be. I got to read The Fucking Artist Way, obviously. I hope you are getting a lot of money for this appearance.
I just, to me, it was just all these things that you're saying. I think we all go through, and the Artist Way resonates because we all feel these same things, and we just need a mother figure, godlike woman to just pick us up and hold us and tell us it's going to be okay.
Right.
And that's part of the process too. Oh, one more thing that was actually really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Was the David Mamet masterclass.
Oh, cool.
Very, very good. He's such a character, and that was really good too. I also watched that during the pandemic and took a ton. I did a bunch of the other master classes, but that one was far and away the best. It's the only one I even remember.
Awesome.
And I did pretty much all the other ones are wonderful in their own way, but I got the most, for me personally, I got the way more out of that one than the other ones. But it's just funny. And then one of the things he said that I thought was funny was, my wife will be like, how's writing going? And he'll be like, one day I'll be like, this is the dumbest thing, and this is the biggest piece of shit. I can't believe I think I can be a writer. And the next day I think this is the greatest thing ever. And that back and forth is so typical of anything he's writing. And it sounds like, I'm sure you feel like that too. I'm
a garbage person, or I'm a god, basically. I'm a human trash, or Scorsese.
Yeah.
But if we could just find the middle of that, I'm neither human trash nor Scorsese. I'm just me doing this thing right now, and it's okay.
Well, don't even judge it.
Right.
That's the thing too, is you just show up at the page, just write a little every day, and it's not even up to you to judge it.
Right.
So you're not Scorsese or human garbage. You're just,
Nic Romolini trying to fucking write a screenplay. Just trying to fucking tell a story. So when do you work on multiple projects at once, or are you very, very single-minded? One, I'm writing one thing. Because one of the things I'm running into is I feel pulled in a lot of different directions in my mind. I keep thinking about this movie that's a high school movie that also ties into my friend who's an Iraq war veteran. And I'm thinking about this other movie about, my cousins who there's a lot of addiction and suicide and stuff. And then I'm thinking about this other movie that I'm writing that's about siblings. And it's hard for me to focus my energy, I think, in one place sometimes. So do you just pick one thing and run with it?
I do multiple things at a time, but I don't know if that's good, because I was just saying how bad I am at getting things finished.
Right.
But I try to focus. So I have a long list of TV pilots, shows, and films that I'm wanting to write. But for the past year, I've been mostly working on one TV show pilot and then this one feature, and I go back and forth on them.
Okay.
It kind of will depend on the day. It'll depend on what's going on. Sometimes I'll try to give something the week. But having a writing coach has really helped with that, though, because it's we're working on this week. I'm going to send you the pages for this, and we're going to talk about it. Right. She'll give me notes, and then it's okay, so I'm going to let that kind of percolate or whatever, and then go work on this other thing. And but I don't know if that's advisable.
No, I mean, that makes sense, though. I mean, that the accountability, I think, too, from having a writing coach sounds awesome. I mean, a friend of mine was saying that the real benefit of having a manager is somebody to answer to, and somebody who's actually going to set realistic goals for you. Because if you're setting your own goals, it can be impossible.
Oh yeah. It's basically, it's a personal trainer.
Right.
And it's definitely really helpful. But yeah, just someone to answer to. Absolutely.
Right.
But so but I'll write down okay, so these are my goals for this month to work on these, and then for this week, and then this day.
Right.
And I break it down like that. But a lot of times I miss my goals. I mean, I've been like,
and that's okay.
And
right?
that's okay. It's fine. Yeah.
Right.
But there's really like there's actually a third project I'm writing with a partner. And I was like, oh, I'll give that every Sunday. But then we flaked on the past 3 Sundays.
It happens.
And then I'm like, next week we'll start. It's my fault. I flaked. But I spent like 4 years off and on editing What's Eating Ralphie May
right.
documentary that is finally done. And that was like kind of stagnating. And I feel like that. So I would work, 10 hours days and edit, and then go home and like edit all night, and then edit on weekends. And that, but like kind of being in that place where I was only working on this one thing, I felt sort of barren. Like, I almost think it's sometimes more fun and exciting to have multiple projects. It's all like, especially if you start looking at them as fun and as play.
Totally.
And like, I try to think of writing now as like an adventure and like a little bit of like a rebellion.
Right.
So it's all play. So it's just what toy do I feel like playing with today is where I'm trying to like get in my head with it.
I also think that there's almost no such thing as writer's block if you have multiple projects, because if you're writing your pilot and you feel like you don't know what to do next, you could just maybe switch gears and work on your feature. Or if you're cutting your doc, you can move to cutting the doc. Like, I think, or if you want to like, I don't know, write a song or something, like just move the creative energy somewhere else just to keep it flowing. Because I think the biggest thing is if that sort of valve gets shut off, that's when the problems happen. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to fucking go do a watercolor painting right now or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point.
Just to keep
I think that makes a lot of sense. There's also a good thing with like setting deadlines for just like looking for like scholarships or not like oh, this blacklist like pilot competition or this screenwriting competition or whatever, or like getting into this like writing intensive, like, and the submission deadline is this date and they want a pilot or they want a feature for this. So that's also helpful because it's like, oh, well, that this project works for that and here's the deadline.
Right.
And that can be helpful, and I do that a lot, and I've only been rejected, but and then which can be soul crushing, and it goes back to your like confidence thing. But then I'm just like, oh, well, they just don't know what they don't know what they. But then I'm still like, this is good. I still am like, oh, this thing I submitted is good. It just isn't ready yet.
That's awesome that you have that point of view, because I would be like, well, I'm gonna submit it and I'm not gonna fucking get in, and I'm gonna be pissed off, and then I'm gonna have more people to add to the list that I'm angry at and who I'm gonna get revenge on ultimately with my crushing success.
Yeah,
But like that can't be a barrier to entry. Like, that's so smart that you use it as like a catalyst to actually complete something, as opposed to like, oh fuck, this thing's bearing down on me, or like I'm scared to do that because I'm not even gonna get into it. And then it's that whole like, well, what are people gonna think of me, and your self-worth being wrapped up in that, at least for me. I actually,
yeah, but for me, like, it always hurts, and then I'm just like, well, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, exactly. I think I just need to get rejected like a lot more than I have been.
Well, it's good to get rejected too, because it's like I haven't gotten a rejection email in a little bit, which means I haven't been submitting to stuff.
Right. Good
so
point.
Like, it's a reminder that you're like actively. I had this guy, I won this like screenplay scholarship thing at Brooklyn College.
Nice.
And I got this like wonderful like writing mentor out of it. And I remember he told me something out the door every week.
Right.
Was a rule that he lived by. And I thought that was so smart. So,
yeah.
And I don't abide by that, but I should. But I've always told myself I would, and I don't. But like something out the door every week is good. So it's like, oh, I submitted to this Hail Mary whatever thing this week. And then you forget about it, and then like you're doing something random, and you get this email in your inbox. It's a rejection. And it ruins your day. But you
got it out the door.
but it's like, oh, I tried for something.
Yeah.
You got it out the door.
Yeah. That's really good advice. I guess I got to submit more to get
Yeah,
rejected
I don't have
more.
any advice. I just have other people's advice. But
Well, that's all we
these
all
are
have, right? I mean, you're
helpful
not like
advice.
conjuring some fucking exclusive advice that it can only come from your soul. It's like everybody's got the same fucking advice.
Yeah.
And I don't
These
mean
are
that. I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. It's just like there's no
perfect.
original piece of advice.
Right. But yeah, for me, it's just like, oh, these are the things that have been the most helpful for me I have found so far.
The goals thing is so funny. Like I recently was like, all right, I'm gonna fucking, because I know that if I don't start setting goals, that in 5 years from now, like what I am right now is what I'll be. And so I started like, what do I want to accomplish in a year from now? And I started writing down my goals, and I had like almost a full-on nervous breakdown. I mean, it was almost a panic attack just about writing down my goals, because I was like, just start fucking freaking out about like, well, how am I gonna? Okay, there needs to be more specificity to this goal, and if I'm gonna accomplish this by this date, then what does that mean I need to do tomorrow? Anyway, it's a little dizzying, but I think I'm getting a little better. I the other night, that was the first attempt to write goals, and then the other night I was like, okay, well, let me just. Now that I am in a place of calm and a place of like serenity, now I'll try and write the goals in a reasonable way. And it actually kind of worked, and I haven't really felt as anxious about it.
Right. I think that's great. But I also think that, and I'm just learning this like right now, it's a little bit of the artist's way and a little bit of this book I've also been reading called Atomic Habits. But there's this, so I'm kind of conflicted on setting goals. I think they're great, but at the same time, it's like, yeah. Oh, my mom's calling me.
It's all right.
I'm on the phone. Weird thing.
Are you in your childhood bedroom too?
I'm actually in my sister's childhood bedroom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Has anything changed since childhood?
A little bit, but not much. In my room, there's still like black and white checkered like stickers everywhere, and like the glow in the dark stars on the ceiling and stuff.
Wow. It's time
this room is just
capsule.
yeah, it's cool. But so
Atomic Habits.
Like, so sometimes goals. And I think she kind of touched on this a little in the artist way, and then like Atomic Habits touched on it. It's like at the same time, like they both said the same thing. Like that I read like almost the same sentence in each book the same week, and I was like, wow, maybe I should actually listen to this. And it was basically like don't set a goal for this like end product, like set a goal just to be a little better every day. It's not big things that are going to change your life. Like when I've said I'm going to make a movie, I have a goal. I've had a goal to make a movie every year since I was 21.
Right.
I've done it twice.
Right.
It took a really long time. I've actually done it 3 times. I made this other documentary, but no one ever counts it. I'm going to start counting it.
Do you count it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like on my YouTube.
Else.
I did. I made it. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, dude.
I'm proud of it for what it was at the time. But anyway, but I have a goal. I have a goal of making a movie every year,
right.
And I almost never hit that goal. But then I don't have a goal, or I didn't have a goal of writing every day, or doing something for my career every day. So I'm trying to pivot instead of like, oh, I want to make this movie by this date. Now I'm like, I'm just going to write and work on this movie every day, a little every day.
I think that's a great approach.
And that's what I'm trying to like pivot.
I have a friend of mine who his whole thing is like, write a page a day. He's like, because you know what that means, dude? Yeah. That means in 90 days or 100 days, however long your movie's going to be, you're going to have a movie written in that many days. Write 1 page a day. And he's like, and don't finish. Always stop in the middle of a scene, or stop somewhere where you'll be able to pick back up the next day with momentum. I mean, that's kind of an aside to the point, but the idea of just like 1 page a day, man, just fucking 1 day at a time.
1 page. Yeah. So I think that I'd have to do like an experiment, but I'm almost positive that if I sat down and said, I have a goal of a year from now having a film made, or I have a goal of a page a day, a year from now, it's way more likely my film's going to be made in a year with that like second goal.
Right.
than the smaller increment, like this little change goal.
Right. Well, I'm excited for you. Congratulations on the film. I'm really excited to see what you do next. I think you have a very unique voice, and I think you come from a perspective of a lot of authenticity that certainly isn't familiar to me. I mean, growing up Baptist, all that shit. Like, your whole background is it's yours, and I hope that you find, the authenticity of your voice in your next project. And I look forward to, whatever it is that you do next. I always really enjoyed talking to you and, learning from you.
Well, I'm so flattered that I'm flattered anytime, I don't know. I'm very flattered you even wanted to talk to me, because I don't, in my head, I'm like, I'm not far enough along yet to warrant answering any of these questions. But
fuck that.
So I'm honored that.
Fuck that. I want to. This is the shit I want to know about, though. Like, I want to know, like, how are you getting from not being far enough along to being far enough? Yeah. Like, what are these touch points along the way? I had a friend of mine the other day be like, yeah, well, if you want to talk to somebody who's just floating above the bottom of the industry, I'm like, yes, of course I do. Because how do you pick yourself up every fucking day and keep working every day when you know that you're bottom feeding?
Right.
That's ruthless. But no, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Of course, I want to talk to you more than I want to talk to the fucking whoever directed the 70-second Marvel movie. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, I'm excited about what you're working on, and I can't wait to read it. I hope you'll let me
if I can muscle my way through it, I will definitely possibly share and allow myself to be vulnerable enough to hear somebody's feedback about something that I've done.
Oh, you know what's interesting? There's I use Writer Duet. I don't know what screenwriting software you use.
Yeah, I've heard
Writer
of that
Duet
one.
has a read-through feature now. You can play, you can listen to droney computer voices read your script out loud. It's oddly helpful.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but at some point you got to do a read-through, and if you're not ready to let other people read it, you need to hear it out loud.
Right.
So if you're not other people to hear it out loud, these they don't judge.
Right. Good point. The computers don't judge.
They don't. No.
Well, safe travels back to Los Angeles. It was great speaking with you, and hopefully I see you in person sometime soon. It's fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah. That would be great.
All right.
This is gonna wrap up at some point. Well, thanks. Good talking to you, and let me know how the Artist Way goes.
I will. I'll talk to you soon, Kat.
Okay. All right, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.